So, Joe, we just finished on our other podcast, Weekend at Bergman's. We just finished our 1999 series last week.
Yes. Oh my gosh, I had so much fun doing 1999.
What a year!
Yes.
What a year!
I loved redoing the Academy Award winners, or the best actors, best actresses, best director of the year. That was very fun.
So much fun.
I loved going through the list, picking my noms. I felt
Spoiler
I felt like
alert,
God. It was great.
Our best movie of 1999.
Yeah.
Stanley Kubrick's Eyes Wide Shut, and it was close.
It was very close
because we had Blair Witch Project, which we love, Claire Denis Beau Travail, the Matrix, Being John Malkovich, Virgin Suicides. It was very tight, but Eyes Wide Shut casts a spell, and that spell gets deeper and darker and weirder over time. Not just the best movie of 1999, maybe the best aged movie of 1999. Maybe that's kind of what The Secret was it just sort of hit real hard right now.
It's timeless.
The movie, I've been going back now. I'm so addicted to 1999. I've been going back now and watching all the movies that we did not watch. Because we could have done a whole nother series of the movies we didn't have time to watch.
We could do it again.
That's how many great movies there were in 1999.
So you told me you watched Cider House Rules how many times this week?
I watched, Cider House Rules, I know Cider House Rules is maybe hasn't aged quite as well.
I haven't seen it.
I was raised, as you know, raised very religious, very conservative.
Yes.
I kid you not, Cider House Rules was the movie that made me do a 180 on reproductive rights. I'm not kidding you.
You've told me that before.
You. And that's only
right.
because I was getting, I lived in a very small
No, it's because you hate fucking women, Brett.
I lived in a very small propaganda bubble, and if from an early age they're just telling you they're killing babies, it's like, oh, nobody wants babies to be killed. What?
Right.
And then I kid you not, I watched Cider House Rules, and I was like, oh. There's a whole I was just that's not what this is at all. And there's so whatever, you can call me simple, you can call me behind the times, maybe I should have been smarter as a fucking 8-year-old.
This is the most human, normal
so
thing.
Cider House Rules, I haven't watched
it.
I haven't watched it since 1999, but I will always have a fond place in my heart for Cider House Rules because it set me straight.
Love that. Thank you, Cider House Rules. Sorry, but what did you watch though? Sorry.
So, I haven't rewatched it yet because it's being re-released in theaters this weekend, the 25th anniversary of Run Lola Run, which I've gotten weirdly excited about rewatching lately because it's a movie that because you only remember it for its premise, that it's the same movie 3 times essentially with 3 different outcomes based on little sort of variables. A movie that's obsessed with cinematic time and chance and other movies. There was that movie Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow.
There's a bunch of
late 90s were very into what if
Woody Allen had one.
We had a lot to think about in the late, a lot of free time in the late 90s because we thought we had solved racism and stuff.
There was
a lot of time to think about other secondary B issues in society. Like time and chance. There was a Will Ferrell one?
I'm trying to remember. It was Melinda and Melinda, one of those. And was Will Ferrell in that? And is that a Woody Allen movie? Is that a time switchy movie?
I think maybe it is an alternate history.
I don't remember.
I watched Melinda in theaters, and I cannot tell you what it's about.
Sorry, so Run Lola Run's coming out next week.
Run Lola Run is being re-released. It's in AMC starting tonight. You can see it on Thursday night. Yes, and it's being re-released. It's 25th anniversary. I'm very excited. I'm going to rewatch it. Maybe we'll talk about Movies Baby next week.
That's an Australian movie, right?
No.
Sorry.
No. It's Tom Tykwer.
It's British? What is it?
No, it's I want to say
weird. I know
Danish.
That.
Shut the fuck up. I want to say Danish maybe. Lola Run is
love the live
Tom
thrill of looking up information.
Right. Can you believe it? German. And then he did Perfume, which I love, which is a weird little movie.
You told me about Perfume years ago,
Perfume was the
man.
first thing I saw Ben Whishaw in.
You
so that's what I
love Perfume.
I love Perfume. It's a perverse little oddity, but it's fun. So anyway, I'm very excited to see Run Lola Run this weekend, plus Bad Boys, plus The Watchers, Shyamalan Clyde.
Wait, that's this weekend?
Watchers this weekend, yeah.
Oh my God.
They just did the red carpet. Shyamalan was a proud papa walking the red carpet with his daughter who directed Watchers. I cannot wait. That's a Nepo baby I support, baby.
Of course, because she owns it.
That's right.
Right there on the poster. Shauna Night Shyamalan.
Thank you.
Directed by or produced by M. Night Shyamalan. It's like, oh, they must be related. Thank you, honesty. I'm psyched.
I love it.
Family Business.
Oh, yes. This week, that'll be next week on Movies Baby. But this week on Movies Baby, Richard Linklater's got a new movie out with Glenn Powell called Hitman. We're going to review it. We're also going to review the indie slasher In a Violent Nature and Viggo Mortensen's Western, The Dead Don't Hurt. Joe, are you ready?
You know it, Brett.
Then Margo, won't you please kindly roll that theme song? Oh, there it is. Heavenly sounds of Smash Mouth. I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby. But how about you? Do you have it bad too? Whenever one ends, it's like the death of a friend. I get to wishing that there were 2 more reels. Then a voice cries out, "Move, baby, you're in my seat, and you don't want to mess with who the Philly movie freak."
I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby. Oh, yes, it's true. Ooh, I've got it bad, too.
He's got it bad.
Every night of the year, like the moon, I appear at every movie theater all over town.
Every single one.
Cut to black. Roll credits. Whoa, baby. I'm lost in a fog. I need someone to talk to.
Hi.
Look, the Georgia movie dog. Dog.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
I can't get enough movies, baby.
I can't get enough movies, baby. Yeah!
Welcome to Movies Baby, the weekly show where we break down the hottest movie news, review the latest releases, shout out forgotten classics, and prophesy the future of Hollywood. I'm Joe Cilio, a.k.a. the Philly Movie Freak, here as always with my co-host, Brett Boehm, the Georgia Movie Dog.
Go Dogs! Joe, old Richard Linklater has a new film.
He came down the chimney again this year.
Briefly in theaters, Hitman, starring Glenn Powell. And co-written by Glenn Powell. And this movie got me thinking, why don't we... Richard Linklater is undoubtedly one of the, one of our top indie American auteurs. But why don't we greet a new Linklater with the same collective anticipation that we greet a new Tarantino or a new PTA or a new Wes Anderson movie?
Right.
This is the guy that made Slacker, Dazed and Confused, the Before trilogy, Waking Life, A Scanner Darkly, Boyhood.
He's good.
But I always feel like it's always like, oh, there's a new Linklater out, as opposed to like the PTA taking over Westwood for the release of Licorice Pizza. And it's the biggest thing in the indie universe. So I was thinking, because spoiler alert, I loved Hitman. We'll talk about that in a second. But I've just been wondering why there wasn't more sort of anticipation. I mean, I know there's been this great groundswell of support online, which is always great for a movie when you get the sort of viral, But why weren't we all waiting around, like, in line outside the theater for the new Linklater? This guy rules. And I have a few thoughts on this. Number one, it did not always used to be like this. I was in 2001 when I was in college. He came out with Waking Life and Tape, that little three-hander that's very interesting, basically within months of each other in 2001. He did Waking Life and Tape, and I remember that definitely being a thing. Like Linklater was hot, and the movies were anticipated, and we were all there opening night. So I don't think it's always been that way, but over the last 20 years, Linklater has had some misses.
Yeah.
And something that I admire about him is he's become very unpretentious about what kinds of movies he works on. He's not very precious about his brand in the way that, this is not Jonathan Glazer waiting 10 years to make his next perfect gem of a movie. Linklater likes to work. He likes to fuck around. He likes to work in different genres. He's not precious about sort of studio versus indie, accessible versus, obscure. He's just sort of likes to work on different movies, it seems like. Because we've had, there was School of Rock in 2003, which was his sort of big, I think, sort of mainstream breakout movie, and probably still the probably besides Dazed and Confused, his most recognizable movie in his I would say like generally, if you ask generally people on the street,
yeah, everyone knows that movie. I love that movie.
I love School of Rock.
Mm-hmm.
And that seemed to give him a little taste for like, I think I might be able to work in kind of more mainstream movies and still do my thing. But that led to some pretty like big misses. There was Me and Orson Welles with Zac Efron.
Well, don't forget Bad News Bears.
The Bad News Bears
Fast
remake.
Food Nation.
Fast Food Nation.
That's all in the same time.
I did not know until this week that he made that Last Flag Flying movie where Steve Carell and the other guys are like sad dads whose sons died in the war.
I didn't know that either.
I had no idea that was him. I remember seeing that trailer and being like, nope.
Right.
No shade, just not that's not going to be for me.
Like, was Everybody Wants Some such a financial disaster for somebody that he had to go and make Last Flag Flying?
But the thing is, he gets, and not that these aren't projects for hire, but he still gets writing credits on everything. So he's not like a gun for hire per se. He's still like writing and directing. And that doesn't mean he's not being commissioned to write these movies or hired to write them. I'm not saying they're all passion projects, but he clearly likes to, whatever he works on, he likes to be in control of it at every level. He's not going to swoop in and just do 3 months, and he wants the full control. Where'd You Go, Bernadette? That movie that I only know from its trailer with Cate Blanchett. He also did. So I think that's the first reason I think that is he's allowed his brand to get a little watered down from the glory days of like Slacker, Dazed and Confused, Before Sunrise, Waking Life, but like when he was like the pure Austin, Texas auteur, he's allowed his brand to get a little watered down. But I personally like that. I love that. I love a career that is not afraid to live in the world as opposed to living on a mountaintop. I really like that. And through it all, he's not lost his chops. I mean, there was Boyhood in the middle of that. There was what's the fuck, you love it? What's the fucking baseball movie that's so good?
Baseball movie?
The college baseball team movie.
Everybody Wants Some.
Everybody Wants Some, right?
Incredible.
Everybody Wants Some is a lot of fun.
It's amazing.
Which also has Glenn Powell in it.
Yes.
I did not realize that was the second time, because Glenn Powell was also in Fast Food Nation. So this is the third. This is his third time working with Glenn Powell, his new guy. I guess his new Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, why not? Well, we'll talk about it.
We'll talk about it. And then if you look at his IMDb, he is doing. Y'all might be aware of this. I'm very excited to learn this. He's doing another Boyhood. Can you imagine? And he's doing it based on Sondheim's musical Merrily We Roll Along. So he's literally doing
Roll Along.
This one. I think is supposed to have like a lifespan of 14 years. So he's literally doing another fucking Boyhood.
I love that.
That's manic. That's mad. I love it.
It is mad. The guy seems like he loves making movies, right? Yeah. And this seems fun. The cast is so interesting for Merrily We Roll Along. We have Paul Mescal. And then we have the other two stars, Ben Platt and Beanie Feldstein.
Favorite. Oh,
and
wow.
everybody, here's what I think, right? When you first hear that, you're like, oh, Ben Platt, Beanie Feldstein, I guess he wants this movie to be bad. But here, I was thinking, if you think about Merrily We Roll Along, and you think about, watching those characters or watching them backwards, all the things they go through, like, I'd like to see a war-weathered Ben Platt 14 years from now playing in the same movie as the king of the world snotty Ben Platt now. You know what I mean? Like, watching Ben's going to learn a lot in the next 14, 15 years. It'll be fun to watch that movie in reverse. Same with Beanie, who's such an interesting character right now in her own right. Watching her mature and age and grow and then be in the same film as herself is going to be awesome. So I'm here for it. I love the ambition of this project. I think this will be as Sondheim wanted Merrily We Roll Along. What a dream, to finally be able to have this like scope and time to do such a project. I think that sounds like a fun movie, guys.
I agree, because that casting tells me two things. Number one, he's really going to go for it as a musical. So we're going to get with Ben Platt and Beanie Feldstein, we're going to get full musical.
His West Side Story,
which is fun. The second thing that tells me, which I think is savvy, which is what you were hinting at, is that year one of this project was probably a lot of Richard Linklater calling Ben Platt and Beanie Feldstein and trying to figure out when they were available.
Yes.
Year 14 is going to be them calling Richard Linklater and being like, "Hey, when are we shooting Merrily?
Can I add a song? I wrote a song for this.
Look,
the Sondheim estate said it was fine.
I know Patricia Arquette got the Oscar for Boyhood. That's like I need a win. I need a win
Beanie.
right now. It's been a tough 14
You
years.
heard it here first. You heard it here first, folks. 15 years from now, Beanie Feldstein, Best Supporting Actress, Merrily We Roll Along. Write it down. Put it in your phones. Little alarm.
I mean, Beanie fell off fast after she got fully cucked by Leah Michele.
Yep. It's tough. It's tough out
Yeah.
there. This isn't a nice world, you know. But Beanie's resilient.
Beanie, that is a lesson you need to learn.
She learned it.
I know we're all out. I know we're all out here in 2024, like acting like nice guys win. All of a sudden, they don't. You got fully cucked by the worst, by the widely acknowledged worst person in musical theater. It didn't matter. It did not matter. You had nothing but goodwill, and it could not save you. It could not save you from the onslaught of Leah Michele wanting a role more than she wanted her, more than she wanted anything. But anyway, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Richard Linklater. And the other reason I think we don't have this big fanfare for a new Linklater is the guy himself. He really leads with his like hippie chill vibe. He is now and forever and always has been the film student who stayed in the college town and became a townie and is the fun hippie to talk to at a bar who has a lot of great stories. But he is not. He is very, careful about not sort of presenting director bravado.
Well, he never lived in Hollywood, never wants to live in Hollywood. He's Austin till he dies.
I love it. He's not giving you Tarantino bravado. He's not giving you PTA's like professorial phase that PTA is doing now. He's not dressing up like Bogdanovich or Wes Anderson. He is just the townie till he dies.
He's the beach bum.
And I love it. He's the beach bum. He reminds me a lot about when I went to college in Athens at the University of Georgia, and you would see Michael Stipe around town, and it was just like seeing the coolest fucking hippie you'd ever seen, just like walking around.
That's cool.
And it rules. There's nothing like a dude who stays in the college town and becomes like the king townie. And that is what Linklater is Linklater's on the Mount Rushmore of townies, I think, at this point. But now I'd like to tweak the narrative a little bit, because Hitman reminded me that underneath all the hippie chill, Linklater is a sly motherfucker. He is a sly, smart, interesting motherfucker who plays his cards close to his chest. He has just as much bravado and confidence as any of his contemporaries. Of course, he's getting movies made in 2024. He's fucking crazy. Those are the only people getting movies made. If I can quote Kevin Garnett, Linklater's got a fucking dog in him. He's got that fucking dog in him. He doesn't like to show it. He likes to, if you read interviews, he's always talking about collaboration, and Ethan and Julie and I worked so well together, and then the magic of the movies, and it's just this. He's got a fucking dog in him, and he knows how to make a fucking movie. I'm going to put Hitman in his top 5. I think Hitman is top 5 Linklater. I really, really like this movie because, to me, Hitman, Joe's already shaking his head, because Hitman, I'm gonna tell him why, though. And maybe he knows this and he just decided it wasn't good enough, but I'm gonna tell him why. Because Hitman does the same thing that Linklater does. It is a representation of the director. It plays the same game. It plays it cool at first. The first act, the first half of the movie, it plays it cool to lull you in, to create sort of comfortable expectations. Oh, what a nice little funny movie that I'm watching. And then when it has you at ease, it pulls some very fucking interesting moves out of its bag, kind of out of nowhere. And then And that dynamic of getting hit with interesting moves when you were just chilling out watching a chill movie, that's an exhilarating experience. I had a great time at Hitman, Joe, and I did a full 180 halfway through the movie, and I'll tell you about that a little bit later. But that's what I really enjoyed, is this movie changed fundamentally for me while I was watching it, not in retrospect, etc. While I'm sitting there watching the movie, I did a full 180 halfway through. But let's talk about real quickly the plot. This movie is about a sort of nerdy, bookish philosophy professor who starts to volunteer for the New Orleans Police Department. This is loosely based on a true story. And he stumbles into this very specific role where he pretends to be, he's undercover. He pretends to be a hitman. And so if you're looking to hire a hitman in New Orleans, you hire this undercover volunteer crime fighter, and then he has a wire, and then he gets you to admit that you're hiring him to kill somebody, and then they come in and arrest the person that's trying to, that's hiring the hitman, right? And it just turns out that somehow this like nerdy professor like Liam Neeson says, has this very specific set of skills that make him very good at this job. The twist comes, though. The twist comes when he meets a very hot lady played by Adria Arjona, who I only knew from True Detective Season 2 as Taylor Kitsch's fiance. Right? Are you just putting that together? Yep. That is the only time
my God.
I double-checked. I have not seen anything else she's been
in.
But she is definitely in True Detective Season 2. And then he falls. She wants him to kill her husband, but then he sort of talks her out of it because he's starting to like get attracted to her in the initial sting operation, and then they start to carry on this illicit relationship, and it gets complicated, and cops die. It gets wild, but they have they sort of develop a little Bonnie and Clyde thing. They're a little illicit, relationship on the sly, and I'll leave it at that. And then I think you should watch the rest of the movie and see how it turns out. The movie starts out, though, with, for the first half of the movie, I was like, because if you've been paying attention online, there's been this growing groundswell of support for Hitman. People are saying, like, check it out. It's a sleeper. Check it out. You're going to love it. It's a quirky little comedy, et cetera, et cetera. For the first half of the movie, I was like, I think this is a miss. I get what people like about it. Glenn Powell is basically just hiring Richard Linklater to film a reel, like a character reel for him. Glenn Powell is like real. Glenn Powell is basically like just like, I'm an actor. I'm not a handsome guy. He's screaming at you through the theater, through the screen. That's the first half of the movie, and I was like, fine, Glenn, yeah, you're great, and I know you co-wrote this, and that's awesome, but it just felt like a one-man Glenn Powell show, but I was like, this is a Richard Linklater movie. There's a high bar for Richard Linklater movies, and for the first half of the movie, it wasn't getting there for me. It wasn't getting anywhere near the heights of, the Before trilogy or Dazed and Confused or Slacker or anything, and there were also these like little absurd sort of things that you had to buy into, like Glenn Powell is doing like nerdy philosophy professor, and you're like, bro, I can see your calves through your khakis. Like your jawline is like, I know, Ozempic and creatine together. It
works, but it is funny because they give him glasses, and his hair's like a little like messy, and it's like, Glenn, we can see you in there. I see you in there, Glenn. They're just little glasses. Yeah, you look great.
You're hot.
Yeah.
So for the first half of the movie, I was like, all right, fine. Like Glenn Powell's doing his like comedy movie, and he's doing his acting reel. And he's trying to prove that he's more than just like handsome guy, whatever. But like, why did Richard Linklater have to be here for this? Like, it just felt like it was like missing the bar for me. And then Adria Arjona enters the movie, his love interest. And the movie does just like stop in its tracks. Literally, Glenn Powell stops in his tracks and is like, holy shit. And then the whole movie starts to become something else. But I think it was what the movie was aiming towards the entire time. And even the fact of like making him handsome guy in disguise becomes clear. Because the whole game that Glenn Powell was playing, I'm doing different characters, I'm having fun, it totally breaks down based on the presence of Adria Arjona, who I'll just go ahead and say is a tremendous actor who should be in a lot more movies and is the hottest woman you've ever seen in your life. And the movie acknowledges this, and suddenly a new game emerges in the movie, a new like movie within the movie. And that new game goes by the title of Sex is Everything. It's the only fucking thing that matters for humans, for movies, for everything. And I'm not just talking about fucking, and there's a lot of fun fucking scenes in the second half of this movie. I'm talking about like finding your sexuality in this like powerful fucking way that turns you into Glenn Powell. Literally like turns into the person he's impersonating because he like finds this like perfect like sexual partner. He becomes, and then suddenly the whole purpose of the movie becomes clear. He was a hot guy hiding under a philosophy professor. Right. That's why they did it. Right. They knew what they were doing. He was the hottest guy on the planet, but it took Adria Arjona coming into the movie for him to realize that's who he was. And then he is no longer impersonating a hitman. He is no longer playing cool guy, playing hot guy, playing dangerous guy. He literally becomes that person via his sexual attraction and just sort of general desire and full fucking mental physical desire for Adria Arjona. And then, you know, from that point on, to me, the movie is more than just a fun, quirky comedy. I think it does that at first to put you at ease, but then it becomes a movie about like passion and sex and desire, and about how those things can actually allow you to become, even if in your own mind, allow you to become the sexiest, coolest, like punkest version of yourself, and all the power that comes with that. And then after the movie makes that turn, it becomes wild. It's like dark and weird and interesting after that. Quick spoiler alert, I'm about to tell two things that you might not want to hear if you haven't seen the movie yet, but I'm going to say them anyway, but you've been alerted. These are two things that happen in the movie. Glen Powell, this fun, quirky comedy that everyone's like, oh, Glen Powell's fun in comedies. Here's two things that happen in the second half of this movie. Glenn and Adria fuck next to a dead cop. They literally fuck each other next to a dead cop, and the dead cop, who his only crime was like being a conniving dick. Like, he wasn't even that corrupt. Right. He was just sort of a conniving. Yeah, he caught them and was sort of trying to play it to his advantage. They fuck beside the body of a dead cop. There's a final like montage where everything has turned out well and they're like married and they have kids and a family. And there is one of the great lines of this year in movies, maybe of all time in movies, where he says, so Gary was his philosophy professor, and then Ron was his like hot guy hitman character, right? And these are two, and he would constantly go back and forth between these two identities. And he has a line in this last montage where he goes, I eventually found the proper cocktail of Gary and Ron, which is like, we're almost in like unreliable narrator. Like, we're in like the mind of a fucking, who is this person now? Like, like Glen Powell starts out as just Gary, as the nerdy philosophy professor, and we're ending with like fucking Walter White, Patrick Bateman levels of personal, like megalomania, personal fulfillment sort of shit. But there's like bodies in like, he has a body count at this point. He doesn't even like care. This movie like takes a wild fucking turn in the second half. I loved every single second of it. And then I was glad afterwards that I was not just like, I don't know, seeing something that wasn't there, et cetera. Because I read this that Linklater said about the movie. Linklater said that he and Glen Powell, who co-wrote the script, we've already said, they wanted to make the movie about, quote, passion. I said it's going to have sex, it'll be passionate, it'll be carnal, the desire that drives everything, Linklater said. Glenn's character starts off very dispassionate, but by the end of the movie, he's a different guy. He's discovered passion, and the movie has this strong chemistry and sexuality. I think, and you're going to love this is what Joe's always harping on, I think that's what's out of fashion. People say there's no sex in movies anymore, but there isn't adult in movies anymore as well, as sexuality in movies equals adult. When I was 13 years old and looking at movies, I thought the adult world looked pretty interesting. It looked fun, and I thought, I can't wait to get there. But it wasn't just the sex. It was the adult situations they showed. But somewhere along the way, Hollywood inverted that. It's like they said, we're going to make films where you can stay 13 forever. You can stay that little kid with little kid concerns. So I guess it drifted away as its complexities weren't the subject matter of mainstream cinema as it had before. So this is a movie that is also an interrogation of why movies aren't sexy anymore and why movies aren't for adults anymore. And this is a movie about how the movies can become that again. Much like Glen Powell becomes his true self, his fucking dangerous, sexy, cool self. This is a movie about how the movies can become that again. And I'll tell you what, when this movie turns and they're doing like role play sex shit walking up the stairs, I was like, yes, the movies. This is what we come to cinema for. Joe, what'd you think of Hitman?
I liked it. No. Richard Linklater's Hitman was good. It was really good. Fun, charming, sexy, well-paced, well-made. It sort of reminded me of the same impulse that Fincher exercised when he made The Killer. He's like, you guys wanted me to make these kinds of movies. You want to see certain kinds of things. Everybody wants some. It didn't do, so hot. Boyhood was a while ago now. He had those like the stop and start movies, Last Flag Flying, Where'd You Go, Bernadette Brett was talking about. And it was time to go kind of a return to form for Linklater. And he got his new guy, Glenn Powell, his buddy from Everybody Wants Some. And they wrote this cool, fun, hip movie where Glenn gets to do all of his characters and be charming as hell and handsome as hell and funny and sincerely funny. And Richard gets to put together a sexy, whip smart, little crime movie, and he totally succeeds. Where I disagree with Brett is it feels very minor Linklater to me, but it also feels like a bit of a it feels like a bit of a reset for Linklater. Brett said this is in his top 5, and I wasn't going to interrogate it, but now he said wrong to me. So you said
let's do top 5 real quick.
Yeah. Go ahead, bang them out.
All right.
I mean, like, okay, go ahead, bang them out. Name 5, 4.
Right. I'll name the 4. I'll name the 4 that are ahead of it.
Thank you.
Slacker, Dazed and Confused, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset. That's it. Those are the 4 that are ahead.
Other ones that are better: School of Rock, Before Midnight, Boyhood, Everybody Wants Some. Even Bernie's better. But
you think Everybody Wants Some is better than this?
Everybody Wants Some is in the top 5.
No.
So,
no.
Oh yeah.
No.
Oh yeah.
Everybody Wants Some is sort of is like a rough draft of Hitman. It's him like he's
it's like a spiritual sequel to Dazed and Confused. It's like another kind of restart. But I think it is a restart. It's not a spiritual sequel. It's him being like, how did I do Dazed and Confused? No, there's not so much confusion. It's the same thing as Hitman. It's like confidence.
Did I do it like this?
Sexy confidence. But the thing about Hitman is I think kind of the trouble with Glenn Powell, which is like Glenn, I think it's almost time. It's almost time to like get out of college and time to move on. I know he's trying to, and I know he's playing the game perfectly, and I know it's all part of the plan. And he goes right in the pocket here. He gets to write a script to show off his SNL reel of all of his kooky characters that he can do for the Hitman.
That's the first half. It's a setup though. It's a setup for the Switch.
And that is very effective and good, but I am very ready for Glenn to do something more. I am afraid Glenn Powell recently has had a couple big movies. You know, he was in Top Gun Maverick where he he was handsome and he played the bad guy, but he didn't like steal the show. Teller and Tom Cruise, that was their movie, and Glenn played like a deep, deep third fiddle, maybe fourth after Jennifer Connelly. He had the Sydney Sweeney rom-com. He had
it cost him an actual relationship in real life.
No, did it really? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah.
Whatever.
It was his passengers.
Oh yeah. Okay. So he had his Sydney Sweeney, and then he had the Linklater, Everybody Wants Some movies, and he's cute and funny. And now in Hitman, it's like I'm cute and funny and starring it. And then if you watch the Twisters trailer, obviously I haven't seen it yet, but it seems like he's like a wily, dick swinging maverick Texas guy. Looks like a lot of fun, but it doesn't look like it's his Oscar round. That's fine. It's all good. It's all part of the plan. But in the next 2 years, I need to see your Oscar bait movie, Glenn.
No.
I know. I do.
Don't listen to Joe. Don't listen to Joe.
Glenn, come here.
Don't listen to Joe.
Come here.
Glenn, stay away from Joe.
Handsome.
Stay away. Come listen to me. Come listen to me. You tell him first, and I'll tell him you tell him what you need to tell him first.
Glenn, I really think you have it. I think you're really great. But people think that you lack depth because you've been a child actor for a very long time. You've been acting your entire life, and you've stayed true to yourself. You've picked great projects. I know you're a pilot. I love that you produced Blue Angels. You did the Maverick thing. You can fly a plane. I get that you're nice and hot, but it reminds me of, when my parents got a dog. It was like the happiest dog I've ever seen, and it hit me like, oh, this dog hasn't experienced anything bad ever. And Glenn, I'm sure you've had your ups and downs, but you're very attractive. I need you to age a little bit. I know you had got the divorce or the breakup with Gigi Paris or whatever. I'm sure that hurt, but you've rebounded with this amazingly hot woman in Hitman.
He's fine.
I need you to suffer. I need you to cry. I need you to be hurt. I need you to get bested. I love you. I want to root for you, Glenn. I want you to be one of the guys, but I need some ruggedness. I need a little more definition, and I can't wait to watch you grow. But if you do 2 more years of Hitman, silly, you're in big trouble with me.
Glenn, listen to
me.
Glenn, listen to me. Glenn, listen to me. Joe wants to make you in his own image. I want you to be yourself, okay? And the way that you be yourself is to listen to Richard Linklater, because you actually don't know yourself. So what Richard Linklater did to you in this movie that was great, don't find yourself, okay? I'm going to tell you who you are. First half of this movie, you're like, ooh, maybe I can be like, maybe I'm like Joaquin Phoenix. Maybe I'm like sort of like Wacky Boy. Maybe I'm like the Wacky Boy with the different characters. You're not Wacky Boy, okay? You're hot as fuck. I want you to look at what Tom Cruise did in 1999. I want you to look at how Tom Cruise, because you might be able to.
This is what I'm saying, Brett.
All right, but do it on my terms, though. No, don't do it on Joe's terms, okay?
You're just agreeing with me, but
because
you want the correct. Okay.
Because the way you can get to, because I'll tell you what, Glenn, the first half of this movie where you're doing wacky characters, I was barely there.
I was charmed. I liked the movie the whole way through. It's charming.
It's charming, but
it was funny. It was cute. My mom would clap.
Here's what's happening to your ceiling, though. It's going.
Thank you.
I want it to be up here, because when you lean into your power in the second half of the movie, okay, look. Sexual charisma is not a fucking crime, okay? We need to get our brains straight on this, okay? That is a fucking powerful thing that you have. And you can still do complexity. You can be, you can be, you know what I want to see you in? I want to see you in like a fucking like Body Heat remake, my man. I want to see you really lean into that fucking power. That would be
a good reach too.
I want you to
branch
into that
out.
power.
I agree.
Look at Tom Cruise in 1999. The guy is doing big time auteur Oscar bait movies, but he is not sacrificing his brand, okay? He's not doing. He does a little bit of a costume for Magnolia, but he's not doing a costume. You get Tom Cruise in Magnolia, you get Tom Cruise in Eyes Wide Shut. You get all of that power, all that fucking sexual charisma and power, slightly modulated for a big time auteur Oscar movie. That's what I want to see you do. I don't want to see. You're not Joaquin. You're not even really Jake Gyllenhaal. I want you to like really lean into that fucking A-list charisma you got. Just find the right projects to apply it to. Add some sinister elements to it. I think it could play dark. I think it could play violent. I think it could play scary. I liked what I saw in the second half of Hitman. I think you got a career there,
I think you're just building off what I said, because you want him to reach too.
Yes.
You just have specific.
That's right.
Specific ideas.
Boundaries for it. Yes.
Well, that's really all there is. I think you covered a lot of what's great about Hitman, and I really do feel like Richard Linklater is still as himself as ever with Everybody Wants Some and Hitman. And if he wants, I think about Hitman was like it felt to me like Linklater wasn't trying to hit a grand slam. He wasn't like swinging as hard as he possibly could. He just like put the ball in play.
That's what he wants you to think.
No,
you fell for his trap.
Well, then your trap worked, but I'm just telling you,
your trap worked.
It's a minor work. It's very fun. It's very charming.
It's not a minor work.
It is. Oh, minor Richard Linklater work. I mean, like it's really good. He's one of the best we have. God bless him.
Better than the baseball movie. That's crazy.
It really is
crazy.
All right.
Let me just give you one final thing that happens in Hitman that I fucking love.
Yes.
There's a moment near the end of the movie where he gets caught, and Adria Arjona realizes that he has been a cop this entire time, undercover, and that he's really some like nerdy philosophy professor named Gary. There's an incredible line where like she hears his name said, and she's like, "Who the fuck is Gary?" Like she's had this intense relationship with Ron for like months, and then she finds out it's just a philosophy professor named Gary, and he's not a hitman. He's never killed anybody. This should be like. Not only is that a hard moment, like that's the end of in real life, that's the end of the relationship. You get a restraining order. You never see that person again, ever. In the movie, obviously they have to get them back together. And that's a very tough hurdle for the movie to get over. It's like, how do I get Adri, how do I get her back with Glenn Powell after she's realized that he's been lying to me this entire time, and that the person he really is checks no boxes. Ron checks all my boxes. Gary checks none of my boxes. And the way they get them back together is he agrees, because the cops are also like leaning on him to nail her, because she's trying to, they think she killed her husband. She did kill her husband. So he comes back into her house, and he's wearing a wire for the cops. So they have audio being recorded, but they don't have video being recorded. And so he starts showing her notes on a notes app. You remember?
I do remember the major plot point. Yeah, I remember this part.
He's showing her notes on a notes app that say like, they're telling her what's going on. Like, hey, pretend like the cops are listening. Don't say this, say this, do this to me. He's like coaching her through the notes app. And there's a moment while this is happening where she starts like betraying these like little smiles, and you realize she's fucking into him again. She's like getting turned on by this like game. And you realize that he's getting turned on by it too. And it's such an amazing way to get them back together where Richard Linklater is like, I'm not going to get them back together through like an plot point or an apology. I'm going to get them back together through the magic of their shared sexual charisma. And it's like, it is that.
You know what's so funny, Brett?
What?
I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, please.
Just real quick. There's like, I feel like Glenn Powell is hot, but I understand that like they're both very attractive and she was being very sexy. I don't think Glenn is like, of course he's insanely hot. He's a god. He's a god. He's amazing.
No, but be honest.
In this Hitman movie, I didn't find him like so sexy. Like in Challengers, like Josh O'Connor and Mike Feist, like they were sexy. And in Hitman, it's like Glenn is so nice. His like charmingness is like kind of disabling. And though he like plays Ron, the hitman. He never and he's got big muscles when he like grabs her and stuff. And he is hot. I'm with you, but he's not giving me like, I know they kept saying, oh, I'm finding my power, and he's having, sex and he's finding his sexual power. But Glenn's not like some like world class, like sexual, like, it just doesn't almost work.
But
he's too nice or something.
Here's the thing. Here's why it works for me is because it is a shared sexuality. It's them together. Okay. It's the thing that happens when they're in the same room and they just can't, like, even like after she knows all of this stuff, but then when he's doing the phone apps and he's like trying, because I think the thing that people are all like, the sexiest thing in the world is to have like a partner in crime, to have like someone who you share some sort of like illicit thing with. You're sexually attracted to them. You're also like against the fucking world together.
Sure.
Right? A bad relationship is bureaucratic. A bad relationship is good for society because it's about reproducing and buying stuff. But a good relationship, I think, is a fucking war against society because it's about fighting boredom and monotony and exploitation. Society wants all your pleasure to be monetized, and a good relationship is like, we're gonna hoard our pleasure between the two of us, and you don't get any of it. We don't need to buy anything or do anything because the greatest pleasure we can imagine is just being with each other and just doing our insane fucking sex on each other.
Man, you really liked Hitman. It's like a good movie. It's for fun. It's like a chocolate on the pillow.
This movie,
Brett really liked
this movie. Fucking rules. Okay, Hitman is great. It turned me around. I was like sitting there halfway through, being like, "Oh boy, I'm just watching Glenn Pell's SNL fucking audition."
That's right.
And then the second half, I was like, "Nope." I'm watching. I didn't know what I was watching, and now I do, and it's burrowing into me.
Well, check it out on Netflix because you can't watch it in the movie theater, unfortunately, because it's a Netflix movie.
Hey, Ted Sarandos, go fuck yourself, you loser. What are you doing?
Don't be mean to Ted.
What are you doing? What the fuck are you doing?
Ted's trying. He said Ted's son said that he watched Lawrence of Arabia on his phone, and it was great. Just watch movies on your fucking phone.
This is true. Ted's son watched Lawrence of Arabia on his phone and said it was fine.
So that was great.
And then Ted said that out loud.
And Ted, in defense of like streaming, was like, my son watched Lawrence of Arabia on his phone. He loved it.
Hey, Ted, you know why you're a fucking moron? Is because guess what I went and watched Hitman in theaters. I paid money to go watch it in theaters. Guess what I'm going to do this weekend when it comes out on Netflix? Watch it fucking again on Netflix.
That means Ted wins.
No, Ted does not win because he did a limited release. As we're going to see.
Oh, you're like, you should have put it. Okay, I see.
When the box office, when we look at the box office at the end of this episode, guess what you're not going to find, Joe, in the top 50 box office this weekend? Hitman.
I believe
because it was
you,
on
but
one
that sounds
screen.
Crazy.
That's fucking insane. You should have done a wide release. Everyone would have saw it and loved it.
Right.
And then when it came out on Netflix, they would have watched it again, and you would have made twice the money.
I would have made like $12 million this weekend.
Dick.
I don't understand. I actually legitimately business-wise do not understand.
Don't get it.
Why they wouldn't.
I don't understand it.
They own it. Why wouldn't they do the theatrical distribution, and then when it comes time for VOD, you just don't let any other platform have it? So like you can't buy it on Apple, you can't buy it wherever on Amazon. You just can get it on Netflix. What is the harm?
Do you not understand that people watch good movies multiple times?
I don't understand.
Do you not understand the entire history of video rentals?
It's like just collect $20 million on top of the streaming. It's like, do you really think that all of those people that saw Hitman in theaters are are going to unsubscribe from Netflix or something because they already saw it in the movie theater? I don't understand. I actually don't. Ted, if you could come down to our office and explain it to me, that would be in best of both of our interests, I think.
You remember that movie Shadow of the Vampire where Willem Dafoe played Nosferatu?
Yeah.
I saw that movie in theaters.
Okay.
It's a good movie, not like a particularly fast, like, sort of like, groundbreaking, seminal movie, but a good movie. I watched that movie in theaters. And then 6 months later, I was in Blockbuster and I was walking around and I saw it for rent. I was like, oh, yeah, that was good. There was like that one scene I wanted to watch. Like, what was that scene? You know what? I'll just rent this and watch that again just to make sure I can get
You
see
were
that
like,
scene again.
halfway through, this actress came in. I did a 180. It was all of a sudden my favorite top 5 Linklater movies.
And that Shadow of a Vampire, dude, I loved Hitman. I watched this in theaters. I watched it on Netflix. You're leaving money on the table.
So I'm watching the movie, and it's like, B+. It's fine. I'm wondering Then this actress comes in. This is a top 5 Linklater.
It is. And you know who
This is better than Boyhood.
You know who agrees with me about that? Richard Linklater. I've never, you know how satisfying it is to have like a thought, just you're watching the movie and you have a thought about the movie, and then you go and read and the director says exactly what you're thinking. And I was like, Richard, we're on the same fucking wavelength, baby. Keep making these movies. I love them.
Never stop. Why would he? He's never going to. He's one of our best. I like Hitman. And everyone should check it out. It's completely enjoyable, good movie.
I'm shocked
Can't
because
miss.
what he said is like he literally did your manifesto.
I know. That quote is amazing, and the quote furthermore about how the infantilization of like modern
that's
American
your manifesto.
culture. I agree with him 100%, but I just think that
this movie doesn't do that.
No. This movie does that. It just isn't the be all end all of that. It's just another piece of the puzzle. I like the movie very much. I'm glad it was for adults. I had a blast watching it, and so did everybody in my theater. I really really liked the movie. I just
interesting.
It just like it had this like charming little like cap on it, some sort of like limitation, and I couldn't quite deduce what it was. Like, it's not Linklater's filmmaking. It's not quite Glenn Powell or any of his actors. The script's fun. I just think it was kind of, it had like the vibe of a thing that they wrote together during COVID, and now it's coming out and it's really good because they're all talented. It doesn't feel essential enough. It doesn't feel urgent enough. I like a trifle, and I like a sexy trifle, but it's sexy because she's wearing like an outfit of a air hostess. Like, that's sexy. I get that. I'm not blind, but I don't know. I wasn't like tantalized sexually, other than just being like hot person.
It's not just the way she looks.
But I'm not mad about it.
14-year-old boy. It's like the entire
I get it.
Performance and the
they have
dynamic
wonderful
and
chemistry.
the look.
They're very nice together. It's a very pleasant film. I just can't sit here and be like, this is the greatest movie I've ever seen. But I'm really glad that you think so.
It's not even the best movie Linklater. It's my 5th Linklater.
Oh, now it's 5th.
Well, I've always had it.
It'll be 6 by Basement Takes, our new show on Patreon.
Check it out.
It
will not. It's going to stay at 5. It might rise when I go back and watch it on Netflix again, which I was going to do anyway. And I think Joe's going to revise his take when he also rewatches it on Netflix.
I'll rewatch.
Sounds like his audience was dumb. It sounds like he had a dumb audience.
But that's just like your way of like just calling me dumb without saying it. I think the audience Joe was surrounded by must have been
the audience
stupid.
sways you a little bit.
No, my audience
It sounds like you had a dumb audience.
It just wasn't. It didn't like. It just like. It was totally fine. It just like hit a bunch of beats. It did a bunch of fun tricks, and it was over. And it was nice. And I went home and I said, "How was it, man?" I was like, "It was really nice. Just check it out. It was fun."
All right. I think the big difference is I understand what you're talking about, but I read that as like an intentional sort of lulling you to sleep for a couple real interesting.
I think there's value
punches.
in just like a hang film. I think there's value in like a
do
good
too.
crack.
But I think this lulls you into a hang film and then hits you with a couple things.
I didn't really read.
Were you not listening when I said they fuck next to a dead cop?
I listened to you. Also, but by the way, that suggests like there was, very quickly. Yes, yeah, it's okay. It's good.
Joe's gonna
Brett. What do you want me to say?
Already rethinking.
No, I'm not. I'm actually like tripling down. It seems like it's like the 10th or 11th best Linklater movie. And I'm worried about Powell.
You ain't got to worry about Glenn Powell. Tell me about this slasher.
Oh yeah. This week, I saw In a Violent Nature, a newish Canadian filmmaker. He's done some things. He did like In the ABCs of Death anthology series. He's done some of those shorts and stuff. He's made horror movies before. But really, this is Chris Nash's coming out party in the Shudder released In a Violent Nature. Brett, I know you want to hit it later when we talk about box office, but just to say it, this is the second movie I saw this year where I saw the Shudder logo come up before the film started.
Love it.
It's a really exciting
Love
rebrand. So IFC took their IFC Midnight's imprint and they rebranded it to Shudder. Why not? AMC owns Shudder. And they're now distributing insanely savvily Shudder movies. It's exactly like what Brett was just saying for Hitman that fucking Netflix should be doing, and we don't understand why. Shudder is doing. Yep. They're saying we're going to put this awesome movie, In a Violent Nature, out on our streaming platform, and horror heads are going to gobble it up. Oh, wait, before we do that, multiplexes aren't running Furiosa on 10,000 screens. We actually can find screens to show this movie. We know horror audiences are a devoted bunch, and I bet we can gin up some money. Boom, bang, you put In a Violent Nature in the movie theater, you whip up 2.5 or whatever, 2.2, 2.5 on opening weekend. That's what you get with the horror audience, and that's what you get when you also bring it. So,
and we can also say real quick that IFC, the last two movies they've released in theaters, this and Late Night with the Devil, are their two top opening weekends ever, and they're both horror movies.
That's good.
So IFC, in conjunction with Shudder, is really onto something. They're the new horror imprint to contend with. I know Joe hated Late Night with the Devil,
but whatever. But I love
when
that
horror movies make money.
No, I love its success
because then the next one is this one, which I think you liked.
That's all good. Like, I want all of these horror movies to succeed. I'm so glad Late Night with the Devil is beloved. It's just not for me, whatever. But In a Violent Nature was much more for me. So this movie follows a slasher, more like a Jason Lives Jason, like a Jason from the earth, resummoned by a curse as he tracks down his lost amulet that reminds him of his mother, and whoever took that amulet's gonna get some in a violent way, or even in a violent nature. So it follows the slasher, and it actually is very well, though cheap, like you really can't tell. It's a very well-made movie. It looks very nice. It does my favorite thing in the world, which is they crop the image so that you get a 166.1 or a 4:3 or whatever you want to call it. I don't technically know exactly how they cropped it, but by cutting out the dead space on the left and right of the frame, they were able to concentrate the composition of the image and create interesting frames the entire way through. Folks, stop shooting the left and the right of your widescreen cinematic quote unquote cameras or screens, unless you want to use it to some sort of grand effect, but you don't know how to, and then you just have dead air in your frame. Your compositions get soft and soggy, but that is totally saved if you crop your image and do a 166.1 or a 4:3, like literally Stanley Kubrick and Eyes Wide Shut. Like, it's not like I'm it's not, I don't know what the stigma is here, folks. But anyway, this movie was cropped like that, and it looked wonderful, like these long images tracking this plotting monster through these gorgeous woodland sort of images and such. And I liked that sort of twist on a slasher. The movie is very by the book. In fact, it's almost like a joke. It knows it's by the book, so it instead can focus on sort of the subversion of you're following the murder a la Maniac instead of the kids that are going camping. But the kids go camping and Jason comes and Jason tracks them down and Jason kills them, and it's all of the classic twists and turns that you're familiar with, but this time we're following the slasher, and this time the kills are tremendous in the sort of spirit of the Terrifier movies that sort of upped the kill game recently. In a Violent Nature says, "Hold my disgusting rusted chains." It has some absolutely gruesome kills that had my theater screaming and laughing like little kids. It was like we were back 10 years ago at the movie theaters, having fun again, and everybody was loving it. I really loved the kills. It has some sincere gruesomeness. It has some exciting new creative ways to destroy a person. And then it's sort of beyond that, it has some flaws. I love the bad guy. He puts on a great mask, like an old school firefighter mask, and he has big rusted hooks that are his weapons. And it was very well shot, and it was very pretty, and it had plenty of originality, and it had great and gruesome kills. And I totally support this feature, and everybody that's a horror fan should check it out. But it's not a perfect movie by any stretch. It's sort of soggy. Some of the characters are a little lame. In the non-killer moments, it feels sort of like the camera becomes what was at first such like a confident original camera becomes sort of like a quick coverage camera, or just a camera that's uninterested in all of the beautiful, brilliant things it's doing when it's sort of with the killer. And then in the third act, which people have seemed to like online, I really didn't like it. In this movie, I craved a crescendo end kill. That's what this movie was promising, and it didn't pay that off. I didn't find the ending to be interesting or creative or philosophical. I found it to be a cop-out, but that's just the nature of the beast. To be mad at this movie is crazy. Chris Nash, I can't wait to see what you do next. Maybe get a little bit more budge next time, even though you stretched this dollar to look freaking fantastic. I'm proud of your 2.5 is fucking amazing for the Shudder release. Like, I love how you guys are thinking of distributing your movies back into movie theaters where horror fans will go. So Brett, I like totally check this out if you want to see some gnarly kills.
Love it.
It's nice and tight, totally fun.
I heard, because it's mostly, I've not seen it yet, because it's mostly through the serial killer's point of view, or the killer's point of view, and killers presumably, you know, like if you just followed Michael Myers around for all of Halloween, it would be the most boring thing ever, because these guys just sort of wander around until they find somebody to kill. I heard there's a lot of like walking, like following the killer walking. Did it work? Did it work? Was it fun, or was there a little monotony in it?
No, I personally found those shots and moments to be good, because the moving kept the pacing of your traditional Jason slasher, like the 90-minute structure of how those kills go and the pacing of those kills and the rhythms of how those movies work, and it kept that exactly, except this time you are walking with Michael Myers. And instead of it being boring, I actually found it really effective, because he frames up these shots so beautifully, and it's sort of is very like beautiful when they follow the monster. And honestly, I liked spending time with the monster. And when they got back to the kids, I was like, ooh, I love the back of that disgusting monster. No, I get that, but I kind of thought that was very intentional and well handled, and not like boring because it was so beautiful.
I love it.
Yeah,
I'm gonna check it out. I'll try to see it in theaters.
Brett,
and then
you
I'll
love
see
a
it on
good
Shudder
kill.
as well.
So there's some fun ones. Fun ones.
You and Alex told me about one of the kills before the show. You described it in detail, and I was enthralled by your description. I can't wait. I cannot wait to watch.
I smile like
a violent nature.
I smile like a psychopath when the kills are good.
It's pure cinema, baby.
When the
it's
kills,
fine.
It's not about the initial. A good kill isn't about the initial like. It's not about the initial stab. It's not about the initial throat slit or the initial whatever. It's about like, what twisted thing does this freak do while this guy's like half alive? And a lot of good stuff, scary stuff, good stuff done in a violent nature.
You described something to me that is like, would make like Mortal Kombat finishing moves look light by comparison. You described something to me that's so grotesque. I don't even know how you communicated on film.
I really liked it.
I can't wait.
Well communicated.
All right, let's talk about Viggo Mortensen's Western, The Dead Don't Hurt. Oh, boy.
My head almost hit the microphone as I fell asleep when you said the title of the film.
The Dead Don't Hurt. But the living sure do when you force them to sit through this snooze fest.
Thank you. He was literally asking for that. I thought about that exact sentence. You just said the entire movie.
Right?
Yep.
Oh, my God, this movie sucks, Joe.
Yeah.
This is Viggo's, and look, we love Viggo.
I love Viggo.
History of Violence,
let's
Eastern
do it.
Promises,
Aragorn,
Lord
of the Rings,
our guy. I liked Captain Fantastic.
Shut up. Idiot. No, you didn't. You fucking idiot.
I don't think I did.
You didn't like it.
Did I? I watched it on a plane. I'm not reliable. I won't have reliable.
Actually, all jokes aside, like taking away any silliness, like just like knowing you very well, like I don't think you did.
Okay.
We can check it out again, but I'm pretty sure you didn't like it.
Maybe I didn't. I watched it on a plane.
You probably
I had a couple of those wines.
City wine old fashions.
Yeah, Sandy hadn't been born yet, so I had nothing but time on my hands.
Well, regardless,
this is Viggo's second feature as director, producer, writer, composer, just Viggo doing everything.
I got this
one. I totally understand why Viggo wants to do a Western. He has been sort of in and out of the Western aesthetic his whole career. I mean, Aragorn from Lord of the Rings is sort of like a Western renegade lawman. And then he did Hidalgo, Appaloosa. But watching this gives like Unfrosted a run for its money in terms of like, why this story? Like this, like it's like the whole time I'm like, bro, like you you're Viggo Mortensen.
Right.
You can get the money and the actors and all together to do like an under 10 million indie.
Okay, and he did, and they seem like they're all standing there. But then, what did he do with it?
Why this?
I don't know.
Why this? Because this movie, I can summarize it really quickly. The plot is that Vicky Krebs is a. They're both sort of like. They're both like sort of like hot outsiders in this very stereotypical filmed on a backlot Wild West town. There's literally one of the opening shots just says like saloon. It's like it is filmed on the backlot not actually filmed on the backlot, but might as well be Wild West town. And then Viggo and Vicky are they're both like, were born in different parts of Europe and came here.
He's a German immigrant, and she's the daughter of French immigrants, and they're both in the West.
Thank you. And they are sort of like outsiders. She's initially dating this like loser aristocratic sort of nepo baby who can't understand why she's not just like in love with him.
Why
for
are
his
you a
money.
free spirit? And she's like,
yes, right.
Because I like flowers.
Right, exactly. And so they're free spirits. They connect. They go live in Viggo's house.
I want to buy fish all by myself.
That's it. That's basically
why.
it. And then Viggo's like, I hate slavery, so I'm going to go fight in the Civil War to defeat slavery. And then she's like...
But he's not that passionate about it. He's
no,
just sort
he's
of like, I got to go check it out. Why?
Yeah, I got to go...
To see what's up.
I can't stay, And it's like, okay, Viggo, like that's politically that's great, but like you're leaving Vicky alone on this, like, because he lives out in the
They're in
wilderness.
California. They're all the way out there.
Yes. And so he goes off to fight in the Civil War and just leaves her behind. She gets raped and terrorized by like the town psychopath, who is also a nepo baby, and gets away with every crime he commits. He just shoots people in the street and gets away with it because his dad is like runs the town, and everybody's corrupt. So Viggo just leaves his wife to get terrorized by this guy, who eventually impregnates her and then also gives her the STD that she dies from in the movie. And then Viggo finally comes back from the Civil War just in time for Vicky to like die of this STD, and then he takes the son to go look at the ocean.
The ocean. He's not kidding.
That's
You're like, they're gonna go get revenge.
That's the movie.
No, they're gonna like walk to the ocean.
Two quotes I want to read you that sum up how this movie came together and how people viewed their participation in it. Starting with Viggo Mortensen. Mortensen says The Dead Don't Hurt wasn't initially envisioned as being a Western, but instead came from his desire to tell the story of a woman who had a strong interior life and encountered struggles to live as an independent person.
Oh my God.
Viggo,
Are you sure?
Viggo, that's not even progressive for like the 1890s.
Oh my goodness.
It was 2020 when I wrote this script. It started out just as a story of a woman.
The interiority of
Stop
is that what
saying
he
the story
thought
of a
he
woman.
shot? Oh my Lord.
It started out just as the story of a woman who had a strong interior life, was an independent person, stubborn, and then I decided to place her in the West because I thought you'd have more obstacles, a society dominated by men, often unscrupulous men who are prone to violence to achieve their goals. I thought that would create a bigger challenge for her, make it more difficult, and I like Westerns. I've been in some, blah, blah. Really? You like Westerns? Because you don't have the faintest idea of how they work.
I really don't think
Westerns
you do.
are noirs. They're not atmosphere pieces. They're not your thinking place, okay? They are nature's noirs. They are our gift, okay? They need to be tight. They need to have a ticking clock. This movie was over 2 hours. Why was it over 2 hours?
Brett, the longest 2 hours of my week.
High Noon was 85 minutes. Why is this over 2 hours? And with all Viggo's concern for Vicky's interior life, how about some concern for her exterior life, i.e. give this character something to do besides being raped and STD'd to death? That's literally what happens in Viggo's...
Harsh words from Brett, but unfortunately that's what
happens in Viggo's feminist Western. I'm not making this
words,
up.
But, you know.
Now, here's what Vicky Krebs had to say about the movie.
The talented and wise Vicky.
We love... First of all...
she's good at it.
Vicky comes off unscathed.
Yeah,
as much as this movie, all the fault lies in it. She's fine. She's good. She's finding ways of making the dialogue sort of work in ways. She's doing a lot around the dialogue.
Brett, let's put it this way: she gets a pass.
She gets a pass.
I don't know how good it was.
Vicky gets a pass. Vicky gets a pass. Here's what Vicky had to say about this movie. This is more devastating than anything I've said or could possibly say. In the world of Westerns, there were not many women. So that was very tough. Of all men, Viggo is very soft and open and very there. But still, it reminded me why I like to work with women. That's on the press tour for this movie.
Tough look for Viggo.
Yes, Vicky, incredible and true. Vicky saw this movie, okay? She's on a fucking rocket ship to Indie Auteur stardom. She didn't need this fucking detour, okay? She saw what the movie was, and she spoke the truth on the press tour. I appreciate it. I also have to say, I think Phantom Fred really fucked the soft boys up. I think all the soft boys saw Vicky and Phantom Thread, and now Viggo had to make his. He's like, I want Vicky to dominate me in a movie.
I want to be your hungry boy.
I want to be your hungry boy, but it'll be a Western. What do you say, Vicky? It's feminism. Just give Vicky something to do in a movie and stand back. That's feminism. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to contemplate her interior life vis-a-vis the West. We get obligatory Peter Coyote, obligatory Garrett Dillahunt, obligatory Danny Houston. Danny
Houston was good.
He was fine.
He
was literally, it was like somebody turned on the Danny Houston machine. That's all it was.
Wait,
he's only good because he's Danny Houston.
Literally.
Yeah. I think that's how he orders coffee from Starbucks.
It was just something else to think about during the, there's Danny Houston.
You get a couple Deadwood regulars.
Yeah.
It's Deadwood light. There's nothing going on in like the town scenes. Cinematic compositions without any like vision or pleasure.
But Brett, it's not even cinematic composition. Cinematic in the sense that they're wide.
That's it.
Like, you know what I mean?
You're
right,
no,
man.
You are right. He thought wide meant cinematic.
Oh, cool. Like a Western, like Sergio Leone. I'll make the frame wide. It's like, no, you got to put things in space correctly. Not one frame. I was like, no. There.
Yeah.
No. There. Please go. No. Why? Up, foreground, background. He has no eye at all. The worst eye behind the camera.
He has no eye.
He's in a gorgeous area shooting, shots of nature and they're very beautiful in nature, but he has 0.0 eye. And you know what's so fucking annoying is you can just watch like any Western from 1930 to 2010 and you can just copy all of those frames. It's well-trod territory how you shoot a Western correctly.
He was doing Wes Anderson framings, but with
he wishes.
It was, but like those like very wide person in the center. There was just no conviction to the way he framed
no
things.
Movement, it was like they were on a clock.
I've seen horror directors in the 80s with like $400,000 budgets do more with 4:3 than you did with widescreen.
Dude, The Dead Don't Hurt should release the 4:3 cut. I bet it'll be like 2% better.
It would be the same. Yeah.
No, I know, but
it would feel better because there would just be less waste.
Yes.
There's a scene really quick. Sorry. Viggo had to show off his knife skills. He had to show off his horse skills. There's a lot of Viggo showing off all his like Wild West cosplay skills.
Yeah.
Before Joe gives his final word, I just want to give my final word to all the Viggos out there, all the A-listers with sensitive souls who have enough industry cachet to fund an indie like this. Hey, the movies are kind of dying right now, so I need y'all to fucking level up, okay? No more fucking Dead Don't Hurts. If you have the cachet to make a movie like this, make a fucking movie, okay?
Or call your boy David Cronenberg up and make Crimes of the Future 2 and give him the $9 million and let him make the movie. Because Viggo, I love you. You're a great actor.
I love you, Viggo.
You're the best. Come on, History of Violence, one of my favorite movies. I'm just going to name the Cronenberg ones. And then Eastern Promises, Viggo, the best, man. You looked as cool as anybody's ever looked in a movie. You look crazy and
Captain
scary.
Fantastic. Love you,
Brett. And then even in Crimes of the Future. So those are just your Cronenberg movies, but that's just one sliver of your amazing career. I love you. And I was really excited for this movie. But everything Brett said is true. And the thing that hurts the most is that this is a disservice to the Western genre. I get it.
Give it to him.
I understand that these days, they don't make 20 Westerns like they did in 1936 because that's just not where the money is. I completely and totally understand. But there's no hope for the genre if you're going to put out 2 or 3 of these every single year. This is so bad. This is like in school when they make you read Shakespeare, but you're too young. So for the rest of your life, you're like, oh, Shakespeare's boring. Yep. It's like, no, you were just too young to read fucking Romeo and Juliet. It's just like it's hard to read when you're young. So then people see modern Westerns and they go, oh, a Western, it's long, slow, and boring. That is the opposite of what a Western is. Like Brett said, they are exciting as shit and tight. They're all Fury Road. They're all like the best movie ever, or they're like a noir. And by the way, Viggo is playing with the genre anti-Western, where it's a Western, but really it's about things that the Westerns don't often focus on, and takes a different perspective and almost criticizes the Western. They've been making those since 1920.
Thank you.
They had the first Western was a Western, and the second Western was an anti-Western, because the entire history of the Western is the entire history of America dealing with its like genocidal legacy. That's what Westerns are about. You don't need to like 2024 be like, aren't the Westerns like of interest to kind of look back upon and sort of criticize? The genre has taken care of that all by itself for 100 years, Viggo. Just shut the fuck up and go do more Cronenberg movies. If you want to make out with Vicky Krieps, just invite her to the fucking, Silver Lake, the
just
sleazy
jerk off
wine
the
bar.
Phantom Thread
Just
like a
go to
normal
the fucking,
person.
Invite her to the wine bar and see if you can get fucking lucky. You stink. Don't do Dead Don't Hurt to her. Vicky, I'm apologizing for you from men.
Yeah, hey, what if women had an interior life isn't a feminist question.
What if we put that? What? Also, why is, if you're so why do you think that you need to speak upon women's interior life? You obviously have
Let
nothing
Vicky
to
cook.
You have nothing to say about it. You have nothing to say about
Let Vicky
it.
cook. Hey, here's an idea. Vicky's like the crazy killer, and you just step way back.
It would be so cool if halfway through the movie he just pulled a gun out and blew his own head off, and then we were just like, then see what happens next. Like that would be such a better movie. I could just anything. I wish anything happened during this movie.
Well, it didn't make any money, so I guess the joke's on him. Margot, speaking of, can we see the box office for this past week?
The joke's on Westerns. Like now we're not going to get another Western for 10 years until somebody's like.
Nobody even knows that this movie came out. It's fine, except for us. All right. My theater had one other person in it, and literally when I came into the theater, I made eye contact with them, and they were like shocked at the sight of a person.
My person.
They were like, "Why are you here?"
My person was like a man about a couple years younger than me, and we both locked eyes, and both of our thought was, fuck yeah, I can vape during the show.
Okay,
it was immediate. We both knew it as the second we saw each other.
I've started to vape. You can get away with it.
Well, if you look at the other audience members, and everyone tacitly agrees.
Yeah.
I mean, he was in front of me vaping on the phone the whole entire time, and I wasn't even kind of mad at him because the movie stuff. Like he didn't do it for the first hour, and then he was like, "I give up," and he just started watching sports.
Pro tip. It's relative to the other people and the size of the crowd. You don't want to be rude to people. You can definitely get away with vaping in theaters. The theater employees don't care. Well, they don't even know you're in there.
The theater employees, you could do anything you want during a movie.
Well, I told you I saw a guy vape on a plane last time I was on a plane. I was like, that's wild.
That's a whole different bag of tricks.
Wild.
Also, look, I don't vape during the movie. I was just kidding. But this guy did, and I didn't mind at all because he wasn't blowing a big plume.
We're all just trying to get through the
He was
Dead
just like
Don't
putting
Hurt.
it in his coat like, and I was like, yeah, the Dead Don't Hurt stinks. I was with that guy locked and loaded.
All right,
Anyway,
sorry, Mario. Let's take a look at the box
Mario.
office real quick. Okay, so all of our new releases are way down, which was good news. That means Garfield and Furiosa got another week to sort of make the loss a little bit worse. They're still way in the deficit though. Just catastrophic.
It made essentially as much as Furiosa did last week.
Terrifying.
And look at that.
If
Sorry to
up
interrupt
to
you, Brett.
80, but that's off of a 130 not 130, but over $100 million budget. So that's still not making its budget back.
Brett, sorry to interrupt you. No, I just like Garfield is number one, $14 million this weekend. It added 73 screens, and Furiosa added 60 screens and made 10. Added 60 screens and made $10 million, barely beating out If for a domestic total of $49 million on an $180 million.
That's what we saw with Fall Guy too. Is Fall Guy added screens second week. Why are you not maxing out the screens for opening weekend of your giant budgeted tentpole movies?
In that Bilge article I was referring to, his big thing is we shouldn't make such a big stink about opening weekend. But literally, as podcast producers, the day one is the day.
Yes.
That's how we can track the trend for the remainder. Like the opening weekend, whether we like it or not, is very important.
Because
that's
people
why we
are
talk
impressionable,
about it.
and people want to go to movies that other people are going to.
It really matters how much you make opening weekend.
Yes.
All right, so In a Violent Nature, look how good it did.
No, In a Violent Nature did amazing. So, like we said, it's IFC's second biggest opening weekend ever, and that's a company that's been around for 20 years. Second biggest weekend opening ever after the last movie they came out with, Late Night with the Devil. So they're on this new horror kick. I fucking love it. Keep doing it. Ezra's Summer Camp. No one knows what those movies are. Dead Don't Hurt coming in at. I had to add. You see what I had to do there?
Wow.
Dead Don't Hurt came in at 17.
Wow. It made $354,000.
It made less than $500 per
on
screen.
735 screens.
Less than $500 per screen. That is,
gosh.
yeah, that's rough.
Less than 500 per screen. Like
That's
I didn't
rough
like the
stuff.
movie, but I never like that hurts. I don't want to see that.
I mean, we should have known when they were bought by Shout Factory is the company that put it out.
Look,
Yeah,
look, I saw the
word was
TV
kinda
Glow
out.
made
I know it's still hanging in
1,200
there.
per screen this week. Good
I
for
saw
you.
the TV Glow.
We love you.
Made more in what is it? Its fifth week than Dead Don't Hurt made in its opening weekend.
Man, I guess we picked a bad one to review. No one saw the film, but whatever.
It was at AMC City Walk.
I know, and also I was excited for it because I like Viggo and I like a western.
Yes.
I was like, oh, good. How can you fuck up a western?
Now, Margaret, can we see what we're talking about next week? Next week, I know. Next week is going to be very interesting for this ongoing crisis of Hollywood's bad box office this year, because we have another big swing: Bad Boys Ride or Die with Will Smith and Martin Lawrence, the latest in the Bad Boys franchise. And then we have Watchers, directed by
Ashana Night Shop or Arana Night or Ashana Night Shyamalan. M. Night
M. Night Shyamalan's
new daughter's
daughter.
first feature.
Yes.
I am so excited for The Watchers. It is my backup
can't
pick
wait.
in the
I can't
movie
wait.
draft. I am so hyped for her. I
can't
want her
wait.
career to be awesome. I love the family business. I love Shyamalan. And also, just to say it, I love Bad Boys. I'm open to a new Bad Boys film being
I'm very
fun.
excited for
Like,
Bad
I love
Boys.
Bad Boys.
I can't get my head around this one. I've read some good reviews.
Nice.
I've read some so-so reviews. I heard they literally have a joke that refers to the slap in it. I can't get my head around what this movie is. I can't wait. I'm very excited.
I'm very excited.
I wanted us, though, because we know that movies have been underperforming this year, I want us to legitimately,
Wow.
if we had to put money on it, how is Bad Boys going to open? And let me give you some
Yeah,
context
okay,
here,
great.
because the estimates have been just plummeting in the last 3 weeks.
Aw.
Because initially domestic projections were at 50 million.
No.
But then they brought it back down to 40 million, and then right now Sony is officially calling that the projection for domestic is like 30 plus. So they're hoping for 30 plus. Here's what movies have been opening at this year. Dune 2 and Godzilla opened at 80 million. Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes opened at 60 million. Ghostbusters opened at 45 million. And then lately, Furiosa and Fall Guy opened under 30. And then If opened right at 30. So they're hoping for an If opening, and they don't think they can get a Ghostbusters opening. That's where we're at with the big studio movies. And I think we're going to see this all summer. I said it last week, I'll say it again. I think Deadpool and Wolverine is the only movie that has a chance of being big this summer.
And Joker 2, you said.
Joker-
or is that in the fall?
I think Joker 2 as well. Yeah, that's more. I think that's closer to awards season.
Okay.
But I think Deadpool and Wolverine is the only movie that has a chance of, because I just like every time they play the trailer in the movies that I go to, there's like the audience sort of
They love
perks
it.
up. I think people are excited for Deadpool and Wolverine. I think they're excited in a way that they like have to see it immediately. They're not, even if it comes out in VOD in like 2 weeks, they're not going to
Well,
wait.
they don't want the
wanna see
joke-
it
they don't want the joke
immediately.
spoiled.
They don't, exactly, right? The funny jokes.
So
But
how much?
other
What are
than
you
that,
predicting?
I think it's interesting though, because Furiosa, you could argue, is still a little sort of heady for a massive movie. It's still a little sort of heady and aesthetic. Bad Boys, I do wonder if there's a lot of people that are going to come out of the woodwork for Bad Boys that haven't been to movies. The trailer does look fun. It looks very fun and unpretentious.
What do you think?
I think it might. Look, I mean, the projections are so low. I think it's going to overperform. I think it'll do over 40. I think it's going to do over 40.
Oh, I think it's going to do 24 million. I have no faith in this going well.
You're probably right. Right.
It's not because I don't love Bad Boys. It's because of it's just
Audiences
because of
are
the
coming
way
out to the movies right
and
now.
you're saying I think people are going to come out of the woodwork. I think that's I think that's pie in the sky. Unfortunately,
I think it's going to do over 40. Over 40.
I
opening
love
weekend.
that. I spiritually am going to pray on that. I
Yeah.
want that. I'm just thinking I'm going to guess 25.
You know what the last? Because I mean, they're projecting.
That's bad. Though.
They're
It's gonna be
projecting
like
30.
4,000 screens, so it'll probably be.
But
Well, 25 is close to 30.
that's what Furiosa did.
Yeah,
Furiosa did 25.
Yeah, and also I guess it's so funny that I think you're right when you say Furiosa is heady, but like that's such like that's so
No, I know.
silly.
No, I know.
Yeah,
I know.
But you're right.
know,
But
yeah.
I know what you mean.
But isn't there's also, look, because look, when we're talking the money, we're not talking about our personal. We're talking about just like the shitty
we're just-
American
yeah.
public and what the shitty American public thinks, and like.
But also, it's
there
Bad
was-
Boys 4. You know, it's like 50 years later. You know, it's a tough
Yeah.
sell. Martin Lawrence looks old. Martin Lawrence, you're my man. Will Smith, you look like you're 20 again. Martin Lawrence, unfortunately, looks like he's just a little older. I pray for you, Martin. I want you to crush this film. I'm going to be laughing all the way. I love you. You're my guy. I'm worried, Brett.
Guess what?
I'm
Bad Boys.
Worried.
The
worried.
last movie in this franchise, Bad Boys for Life. Guess what it did? Guess what it did opening weekend, pre-COVID opening weekend.
Definitely like over 80.
No, 62.5. But still, 62.5 like it was nothing.
So, yeah, right.
And
like
they're hoping for over 30 for this one.
Okay.
That's
Well,
where we're at. That's where we're at.
A shame.
Now, really quickly, the hope is, box office-wise, the big hope in Hollywood right now is that Father's Day weekend, not this weekend, but the next weekend, Inside Out 2 is gonna come along and make a bunch of money. Everybody always
45.
they depend on Pixar, they depend on Marvel to always come along and make all the money.
45.
They're projecting Pixar at 80 right now, opening weekend, which would be insane. That would be a Dune 2 Godzilla opening weekend. I don't see it happening. I do not see it happening. Kung Fu Panda, whichever was four that came out earlier this year, I think did somewhere between 60 and 80. So that might be where Inside Out comes, but over 80 seems impossible. That would be the biggest opening of the year. That seems impossible. That's where we're at. It's dark days at the movies. That was kind of the opposite premise that we started this podcast with. But
we started on Dude 2 week. We thought,
oh baby,
we're back.
Barbenheimer.
We're not back.
No. But we're gonna stay here until the whole industry collapses, and we'll keep coming to you every week. And we're just gonna be honest with you and tell you the way it is. Let's do some plugs real quick before we head out of here for Movies Baby this week. Our patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. Please sign up. It helps us to keep doing this show. You also get tons and tons of great stuff over there, which we're going to tell you about really quickly now. You get full video and audio episodes ad-free of Movies Baby and Weekend at Bergman's. We just finished our 1999 series on Weekend at Bergman's. You aren't going to want to miss that. You also get a lot of fun bonus shows like VHS After Death, hosted by Sarah Freilich.
After Death VHS.
Oh, thank you. After Death VHS. A new episode of that is coming out this weekend.
Oh, that's my favorite show on my own Patreon.
It's so freaking good.
I love that one.
It's so freaking good. A new episode's coming out this weekend. You're not going to want to miss it. And then we have 2 new bonus shows coming out on the Patreon. Tonight, in a mere 10 minutes, we are going to be premiering our new Patreon-only after show, Basement Takes, where Joe and I just sort of sit around unplanned and just sort of reel off the movies we've been watching, things that we recommend. We'll debate. We'll do hot takes. We're going to try out stuff on Basement Takes that is maybe not ready to come out from behind the paywall.
It's behind the paywall because they're dangerous takes, folks.
It's too hot.
These are takes you can only hear
way too
in
hot.
the basement. They're
It's way
spicy.
too hot.
They're scintillating. And there might be even special guests.
Oh, including tonight. Stay tuned for that. So if you are on the Patreon, in 10 minutes, we will be back with Basement Takes. If you are not on the Patreon, you won't be able to see that. So why don't you join the Patreon? Join us for Basement Takes. We're going to get fucking loose. I'm going to get bombed on limoncello and say some shit I regret. And then I'm
going to make an ass out of myself.
Tomorrow, this is very exciting.
Speaking of
our new Twitch show, which will be available for replay on the Patreon only. The Hot Dog and Gamer Boys play the movies.
Right.
Here's what's gonna happen. We got some really fun costumes for this. We're gonna eat hot dogs and we're gonna play old retro video games based on movies. This week we still haven't decided. It could be Willow. It could be Alien vs Predator. It could be Platoon. It could be Home Alone 2. We've got a video game digital console that has over 100 old games based on movies. We're gonna play one every other Friday. You can catch us on twitch.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. You can watch it live. It'll be at 2 p.m. Pacific time, or you can watch the replay on Patreon whenever you want. And we got some fun stuff planned for that. It's going to get wild on Hot Dog and Gamer
I've always
Boys.
wanted my own game show on Twitch.
And you got it.
I always wanted to become an e-gamer. This is e-gaming, right?
We're going to make so much money off of this. From what I've been led to believe,
this is e-gaming.
E-gaming is where the money is.
Yeah.
All right?
Yeah. This is our first foray into money.
So stay tuned for Basement Takes coming your way in 10 minutes on the Patreon, and then join us on this Friday and every other Friday for Hot Dog and Gamer Boys Play the Movies. And then, of course, just join the Patreon for all sorts of fun stuff. And I think that's about it.
That's it, folks.
All right.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for joining us, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.